Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and Jesus and Ugly Jody and simulcast and Storehouse Media Group. But Jody, thanks for stopping by, Jody Corbet. And we're going to talk today about scaling your business from one to many. And it's a difficult process, right, for solopreneurs to scale a business, right?
It is indeed, especially depending on what industry you're in, or maybe if you're developing products, or if you're a services company. So what you're doing, what you provide, will oftentimes be one of the biggest things you need to look at as far as, do I scale? How big do I scale? How fast do I scale? Those are all questions that need to be discussed when you're creating a strategic plan.
And you just never know that process, right? You never know, particularly how the right way to scale and all these different things. And what do you see rule of thumb when you're a solopreneur? When should you start to hire people?
Well, it goes back to, a lot of people start a business because they're good at something. And whether it's manufacturing something again, or they're providing a service, like they're a CPA or a lawyer, or they're the software developer. Well, a software developer can create all this great software in the world that they want, but if they have no infrastructure for sales and for marketing and for distribution, it's not going to do them any good. And it really is that way kind of across the board. So you need to figure out, okay, you're good at doing blank job, whatever that is, and you may be able to do other things. I have clients that they're very technical. They can write software, they can produce hardware or other services that are out there, but they're also having to run a business. And that may not be something that they're necessarily skilled at. They could be a good business person, but they may not be the entrepreneur or the salesperson or the marketer they need to be in order to kind of grow and build the business in the way they want to see it built. So oftentimes I sit down with my clients and we just have conversations about, where do you want to go? How do you want to see your business grown? I've had some clients say, listen, I'm good with just doing this on my own. Maybe they're doing woodworking. They've already retired from a government job and they just want to do woodworking, and that's it. Hey, that's great. But I wouldn't call that necessarily a business. I'd call that more of a hobby. But it's a business they want to do, and they sell their woodworking, and they're good with that. And we move on. I think the big thing to me would be, how do you what do you envision your business looking like in 3 to 5 to 10 years from now?
Exactly. And how do you visualize that? And there's phases. When do you see, you talk about maybe having somebody and hiring a vendor. That's a little different than hiring a freelancer or somebody else for your business. If we're looking at scaling, yes, we've always hired marketers for something, or we hire certain things. But when do we know we need to replace ourselves or start so that we are not the only part of that business? When do you see that time? A lot of people pull that trigger too early.
Well, and it really goes back to the point you just made, which is, there's things you can outsource, right? You can outsource accounting, you can outsource bookkeeping, you can outsource marketing. Um, the challenge becomes is, okay, so you've got somebody who's marketing a product that they may not understand, right? So you have to make sure that you can do the knowledge dump that you need to do. And then there's people like me who, hey, you've developed this really cool technology, but you don't know your customer base. Like, you've never worked inside the federal government, for instance. So having somebody like me be able to come in and explain, hey, this technology you've developed, this would work really good in these different components within the government, whether it's the intelligence community or federal law enforcement or Department of War. And even within those, there's these subcategories that maybe your technology, it's not going to fit enterprise wide for, like, the FBI, for instance, but there may be specific sections or units within the FBI that this would be really, really good for. And having somebody like me be able to translate that for you, and kind of walk you through there and hopefully get you introductions into those groups, that can be very, very beneficial. And you wouldn't, again, you don't have to hire me on as a staff person. You just bring on as an outsourced resource available to you, that you'd bring on kind of as a 1099. When you start bringing on internal salespeople, so these are people that are on your team now, they work for the company, they understand what you're doing in theory. They quote unquote, as we say in the bureau, drank the Kool-Aid, and they're on board with what you're doing. those folks, now you have a sales team. Well, when you have a sales team, there's other things that have to come along with that, like human resources. You have to have somebody set up the benefits plans and the payroll and all that stuff. So now you've got to hire somebody. And again, you can outsource this, but you have to bring on somebody to do HR. You're gonna have to have somebody come on and do, compliance stuff. Hey, are these people being trained? Are they being, are they getting the sensitivity training or the ethics training that you would want them to have when they're out there representing you and your company? Um, and so you got to bring on folks for that. You have to have legal advisement, which again, you can outsource it, but there gets to be a point where it just makes more sense to bring it in-house because it's going to cost too much to outsource some of these things. So a lot of times it's hey, and I encourage my clients to consider outsourcing early on, but to explaining to them, hey, this may be something you're outsourcing now, but in 6 to 12 months, we don't want to be outsourcing this anymore because it's going to be too costly, too cost prohibitive. Um, and then there's other things that it might be fine. You outsource bookkeeping, for instance. There's a lot of great bookkeeping companies out there that have relatively reasonable prices that you wouldn't have to bring that in-house necessarily. So again, it just depends on kind of what you're doing and what industry you're in. But scaling and getting the right people in the right positions and the right categories. So whether they're employees or 1099s or partner companies, vendors, as you call them, any of those things would be something you'd have to have a conversation about.
So that's the next thing before going to a part-time or full-time employee or a part-time or full-time subcontractor is go this route. Take the things that you're not really good at and start to put those things to free up your time to bring the business and scale it further. That's the first scaling process, it sounds like, what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. And I will say too, we're speaking in more of a traditional sense, but obviously over the last several years, with the advent of AI and how that can be used and implemented, there are certain things, and I think you really kind of hit this home very well, with what you're doing with your fractional marketing position that you bring to the table, and you've benefited my company greatly from it, is being able to implement AI to perform certain tasks. So there are things like marketing where with the right agentic AI agents, you could do marketing very, very inexpensively, get a good product back. It may not be phenomenal, but it'll be good enough for what you're paying for it to start you down that process, right? I think you're going to see that change as AI starts to move into the legal field and people just start uploading, the different court or the different legal sections that they would be applied to their business into LLMs along with any kind of court findings that would be in there. And you could really just use LLMs to help you make legal decisions based off of that. So there are going to be some ways, but Neil, I'm going to flip this interview around and ask you, what are some of the things that you're seeing with AI that can help a company scale very, very quickly, but at a reasonable cost effectiveness?
And see, and I look at the local business as the first one that can really, really benefit from specifically enough using having a consultant like myself or fractional CMO, as I put it, to help run that part of the business. When you're a small business owner or a certain thing, we talked about this, and I think Jody, this is where we have to go from the scaling. There's going to be a few parts on Jesus and Ugly Jody talking about scaling and teaching people phases. Biggest mistake is we start hiring and then all our profits disappear. Not the way to do it. Okay. Not, oh, I'm going to be able to replace me, who my customers love and my clients love. No, you can't do that. You're going to have to pay a handsome salary that takes a lot of your profit. When you hit to 7, 8 figures, that's when you really replace yourself. Before that, you shouldn't, because it's too difficult, because you're going to find out you're watering down your product. You're not going to have a long phase. So step one in this is basically you can have your outreach team, your inside sales. You don't have to hire sales now. You need to be the salesperson when you're small into your organization. You need to be on all the sales calls. You never hand the sales off to somebody else because you know your product and service better than anybody else. Never hand off the sales. Yes, have some people that can referral partners that are going to refer it, but you're the one that ultimately closes the deals. You can outsource creating AI agents, the outreach, emails, lead gen, everything can be outsourced so that you don't have to be shooting off emails all day. If you're sitting in front of a computer 5 hours a day, there's a problem. You better be making money sitting in front of that computer 5 hours a day. If you're not making money sitting in front of that computer 5 hours a day, you are not out there going and doing. So that's the first thing. Uh, Automate that. Secondly, social media. If you're not a big social media person, you could create content using AI agents to just run your marketing, your blog posts, your social media, so that you can be on autopilot for the major things. Because most businesses, Jody, people buy the person, they don't buy the business because there's so many similar businesses like yours. They want to know, like, and trust you. So you stay away from that camera, except recording a few times, and outsource the rest in social media. I agree with the whole thing with the accounting side of things, the legal side, but there are agents involved there. And then there are also agents to automate things even further. But just to get your social media taken care of and your outreach, that's huge. Imagine being able to have 10 inside sales reps in your company. That is going to give you business and opportunity. And you just got to get that flow together. And that's what I can do here at Media Giant Productions, is that be able to really hone into that. Like, creating the flow, getting everything together. A lot of people build that automation off and hand it off to you. I don't do that. I continue to manage it, take care of it, flourish it. You check the emails, send the emails, schedule the calls, or they've already clicked your Calendly link and bam, or they've downloaded your book, your free copy of your book, or your lead magnet. Wow, I already got them in the funnel. And all I had to do was basically work with someone like me. But that's my pitch there, Jody.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the other big things, and you kind of tapped on it, was you have to control the sales, and you are going to be the most passionate person to do that. But I go back to the marketing is so critical because if nobody knows you're out there, you can have the best product in the world. It's not going to help anybody because they can't find you. They don't know even what to look for sometimes. And so I think that will be that's something that folks need to talk about. And that's one of the things we discuss when I sit down with my clients is what does your marketing look like? What is your strategy? And sometimes I've got clients that they don't really have a set strategy. They just, well, we just want to sell our product. Okay, well, that's great, but having some focused industries or potential clients or customers, companies, government, whatever it might be, having some focused stuff so we're not just not out there throwing it up in the air and seeing where the wind blows it. That's very, very important in generating a strategy and keeping folks tasked and kind of going in the right direction.
Right. And that's the thing, in the right direction. So this is where we're at in scaling. And Jody, I'm telling you, if you had a question with every business right now, do you have a scaling plan? Do you have a plan once you're busy beyond belief? Your appointment schedule is completely booked. Do you have a plan? How do you scale further? You can't, don't work more hours. Figure out that next bottleneck. And I love the suggestions you gave today, Jody. One is find a bookkeeper. Second is to do certain things that really it's not your expertise or core and you don't like doing it, and outsourcing that. That's a vendor. Can you pay for that? That's the other thing, is can you pay for it? The biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is, yeah, I can pay for it. And then they have a bad month and they say, I can't do it anymore. You want to make sure that you have 12 months paid that you can pay that vendor. That's one of my biggest things. And it's a $50 or $100 a month thing. You need to be able to know. And then how am I going to get a return on my investment? By hiring a bookkeeper, by hiring a virtual assistant, by hiring an AI team. How am I going to get my return on my investment? I need X amount of sales. And if I'm not very good at sales, then I have to have the conversation about sales. And marketing, the problem is we use the word marketing with one mistake involved. Does it lead to sales? There's lots of marketing out there that brings attention, but does it really generate sales? And that answer is the best way to do it is I recommend every entrepreneur. How many messages are you sending a week for potential customers? And that's why I talk about the AI outreach. How many times are you connecting with people or scheduling a virtual call with somebody or having a cup of coffee or meeting with a local business or speaking in front of a local business? If you're not doing those things and you're waiting for business to come to you, continue to wait. It will just wait and they'll never come.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree. And that's, you talk about what can you do? I intentionally went with a tax preparer that also provides bookkeeping services. So that when it's time for me to talk about the return on investment, So I pay them every month to do my bookkeeping. And then at the end of the year, when I have to do my taxes, they already have everything ready to go. It's very, very easy for me just to send them some receipts and some documents, and then they finalize everything for me. That to me, it may not be bringing money in, but it's giving me time back, which you and I have discussed. Time is one of our most precious resources in entrepreneurship, and it's something that I really value. And so to be able to do something like that that gives me my time back, it's well worth the cost.
All right. Where can we connect with you, Jody? Best places.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, through my website at sls.consulting, or on our YouTube channel, or on X.
All right. Appreciate it. That was the special Tramelcast, the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Jesus and Ugly Jody. Guys, take care.